Rob is the Challenge Director for Prospering from the Energy Revolution programme, and he's going to share a few of the highlights of the last 2 years. Over to you, Rob. You should now have control.
I have indeed. Thank you, Jenny, and good morning, everybody. Welcome to the slightly weird parallel world of COVID conferencing. I suspect we're all going to get a bit used to this over the next few weeks, but I really hope you're all keeping well and that you're finding this webinar's working for you wherever you are today. We'll do our best to make it as interactive and as interesting as possible. So please try and keep with it as much as possible, because there's some fascinating content coming. As Jenny said, I have the pleasure of running this ISCF challenge called Prospering from the Energy Revolution. And what I want to do just in the next quarter of an hour or so is just give you the brief context on the programme for those that haven't come across it, where we're up to and what we're starting to learn in particular about unlocking local energy systems. Before I kick into that, can I just give a really heartfelt thanks to Jenny and to Natasha at the KTN, who have done an amazing job of turning this into an online meeting conference over the last 3 days, really. This time last Thursday, we thought we were going to be running a physical event in London. And I said, yeah, could we do it? Could we do it online? And they've done an incredible job of turning it into an online event. So thank you very much. Really, really much appreciated and amazing work. Okay, so prospering from the energy revolution. There's another crisis other than COVID out there. It's working on a very different timescale, clearly. But I think our move to a position of trying to get to net zero by 2050 has really changed the way that we're looking at the journey to a decarbonised energy system and society. It's added an incredible new urgency to that transition over the coming decades. And I think what it's really changed is that, you know, the optionality has gone, really. We kind of have to do everything. But more than that, it's become clearer that we need to prove systems in the real world with real people. We need to get on and do things and show what works and what doesn't work. So a shift perhaps from developing new technologies to proving integrated systems in the real world is going to be needed so that we can figure out how to make these things scale up. We also need to do these things, you know, across all of energy. I think historically we've focused heavily on power, but actually the big problems and the big things that need solving are as much about heat and mobility as they are about power, and in particular how those all join up together. And we need to develop end-to-end solutions, not point solutions. End-to-end solutions that work right from the source of the energy through to the end use, and indeed including efficiency along the way. And when we look at that kind of new framing of our transition to net zero, I think it becomes clear how important the local is going to be. Heat is inherently local. We're not going to pump heat around across the nation because you just lose it all. Mobility is vastly local. Vast majorities of journeys are local journeys. I mean, even power is becoming increasingly local, with much more distributed systems becoming much, much cheaper. Most efficiency measures are going to be local. Demand is inherently local. And perhaps, you know, most importantly, us, probably the most complicated bit of the energy system, the people using it. Of course, we are local in that the vast majority of our lives, and increasingly so at the moment, are very local. So being able to put all of that together means that we have to be able to sort out local systems in a very different way. And there are real opportunities, I think, in engagement in a different way via local systems that we can harness as well. But we do think there are some missing links in making this happen. And one of those, and has always been the premise of this programme, that there's a critical missing link, which is investable business models for local systems. We don't think that there are clear ways of attracting finance into local energy systems at the moment. And there are emerging ways of putting together all the technical solutions into business models that people want to buy into, that users want to buy into. But really the programme is about trying to prove some of those business models. So our objective set are heavily focused around that context. Top left there, proving investable, scalable, local energy business models. Unlocking the finance that can then scale and replicate local energy systems around the country and indeed overseas. We want to accelerate new products and services to commercialisation as well. This programme provides fantastic proving grounds for new technologies to show what they can do in the real world, and that's often a critical step to commercialisation for innovative solutions. And last but not least, we want to build real UK leadership in this area to be able to create growing, scaling businesses for the UK economy, and indeed to help other countries to learn from our successes. That objective set turns into a series of activities that we're undertaking in the programme to try and deliver against those objectives. So a large amount of the money is going on future energy model proving. So that's really targeted at showing what you can do on a local basis by integrating, intelligently integrating the system across power, heat and mobility. For demonstrators, big demonstrators that are trying to achieve those goals, and a series of design projects for local areas that are trying to show what future energy models could do. And you'll hear from a lot of those today. There's a relatively small amount of money for bringing on innovation, for bringing technical solutions in areas where we think there are gaps in that system. And in particular, we're doing a lot of work in data and in heat and integration services in that area at the moment. Underpinning everything is this research, expertise, capability and coordination layer. That's two things. That's a service called the Energy Revolution Integration Service, which is run by the Catapult, and Energy Rev, the research consortium that's led by Strathclyde University. And you'll hear from both of those in the afternoon about how that joined up capability, research and coordination is really serving to build success in the projects, but real learning from them and an understanding of local energy systems in a different way for the future. So I said that we have 4 groundbreaking demonstrators. The green blobs on this map are where they are, quite literally spanning the north to south of the country. And you're going to hear in detail from them shortly. Reflex up in Orkney, Local Energy Oxfordshire, Superhub, Energy Superhub Oxford, and Smart Hubs in West Sussex. And what you'll hear from them is some real contrasting approaches to how local energy systems can be put together intelligently to deliver energy services that people really want to buy. So some great presentations on those coming up. All of them are trying to do town scale power, heat and mobility services, trying to integrate things intelligently in ways that please consumers, and trying to do things that can be scaled and replicated and attract private investment over the coming decade. That was the bar that we set them, nice high bar, we think, and really pleased with some of the activities going on across those projects. In parallel with the demonstrators, we've been funding a series of concept designs, which were 6-month feasibility study projects, and those are the blue blobs across the UK. And we're just starting 10 new detailed designs, again spanning across the country. We're not going to hear from them today because they are literally just in the process of starting those projects up. You'll hear from them in future, I'm sure. What we are going to hear from is the concept designs and find out what they learnt from their work. And indeed, some of those are progressing on to become detailed designs as well. So the intention of this stream is to create a pipeline of projects that are investable, buildable, and that deliver the right outcomes for society by the end of this programme in March 2022. But one of the key things that we need to do in this programme is to learn from all of the activity that's going on, and to make sure that we are putting that in the right hands. So it's a very simple kind of learning diagram here. You do things, then you figure out what that means, and you figure out what that means for the future, of course. So at the moment, we are mainly in the doing stuff. We've spent 2 years delivering funding for great new projects, but we are starting to get lots of what's going on in those projects. Things like just how complex it is to put together one of these projects, the kind of complex consortia that are needed to do this kind of work, involving local authorities, multiple technology companies, network organisations, local community-based NGOs, local authorities, if I haven't said that already. I think I have. But the complexity of getting all of those groups together to work to a common cause is quite something in its own right before you actually even start doing anything. So the stimulus of this funding is providing the way to do that at the moment, but we're going to need to find out how we do that on a more self-sufficient basis in the future. And clearly we hope that being able to prove business models that are able to do that, and some of the financing mechanisms that can get behind groups of interested parties locally, can help to unlock that as an example. And we're starting to build an understanding of the so what, what are the insights that all of this learning is providing to us? What are the real lessons that we need to consolidate, to coordinate, and to provide back into some of the policymakers and regulators, the investment community, the industrial community, about how we can make a success of this part of the energy system? What are the key lessons, and indeed what are the key facilitators that are going to be needed in future to enable local energy systems to thrive and people to get the right energy services that they really want in the future? And just some other bits of learning that I think we're starting to find with the experience of the last 2 years of running projects. Clearly, the intelligence of these local energy systems are going to be vital. One common thread across all the projects that we've funded to date is that they all have some kind of intelligent, smart platform that they're operating from, that they're aggregating stuff up into, or that they're managing market interactions with. So intelligence is going to be absolutely key. What we do think is that data is going to be a key enabler of those smart systems, and at the moment is somewhat of a missing link. We have made great progress in the last year, I think, with the Data Task Force having launched its initial report, and I think that's a great foundation. But when you open the box that says energy data, it's somewhat sparse and it's not very well organised. So using the data that does exist at the moment is quite a challenge, and there's probably not enough of it for real kind of artificial intelligence to make as good use of it as it could do in future. So we want to really try and help unlock that, and we're running we're shortly going to be awarding some funding to businesses who can try and think about how to build data architecture for the energy system more effectively, so that innovators and businesses can use that data in much more meaningful ways. So data is a key enabler for the future. Policy and regulation, we're starting to learn loads about as well, clearly. The regulatory landscape is going to be a key enabler for local energy systems, and our demonstrators in particular have run up against various barriers which we're keen to engage regulators and policymakers on. The targeted charging review being a particular example, which has changed the way that our demonstrators have been able to go about things and gain investment in some of their assets. So we'll be building a much stronger link into policy and regulation as we build those learnings over the coming 2 years. And last but not least, financing. I think we knew that this was going to be important, but I think the last 2 years of experience have absolutely solidified that in our plans, that these local energy systems are not going to be supplied with financing purely from government. There's not enough in the Public Works Loan Board to do this across the whole country. We're going to need significant scale of private finance to enable local energy systems to thrive in the future. And we want to help unlock that by bringing the communities together and working together to build investable business models. You'll hear a lot more about that in the panel session after lunch on financing. So that's all I wanted to say for now as context for all you're going to hear later in the day. I hope it's given an overview of the programme and where this fits. And I hope you have a really good a day listening to all of the information from the projects and the experts that we have in the panels, and look forward to engaging with you a lot more in the future. Thanks a lot.